Good morning, Stockholm, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are or whenever you are in the world. We are so proud and happy to welcome all of you to the World Anti-Bullying Forum, Day 2. I'm Magnus Loftsson, and I'm the forum moderator of this day. And though we are divided in time, in place, in so many ways, we are also connected, deeply connected and interdependent, especially when it comes to ending bullying. And if we want to improve and protect the lives of children, the current trends in communication technology and digitalization calls on us to cooperate globally. To find the best solutions, we need to act based on the best available knowledge. During this session, I just want to remind you to use the communication technology that we also have in this conference, the platform, the QR codes, to send in your questions so we can answer them later after the keynote. And I also want you to use communication technologies to post in social media and hashtag WABF 2021. Yesterday we had great news. Together with UNESCO, the WABF proposed a new revised definition of school bullying. I need your help. You need to give us your feedback, give us your thoughts on this new revised definition. And you can do this in the conference platform. Just go to the lobby. There's a bottom at one side of the desk with the definition as a PDF, and there's another bottom on the other side where you can click and then you can send your feedback into us. So please do that today before 1300 Stockholm time. And also for all of you on site, there is printed copies of the definition, the new revised definition, in Friends Lobby. Okay. It's such an honor for me to introduce our next keynote speaker. He's recognized internationally for his groundbreaking work on the subjects of cyberbullying and safe social media use, concerns that have paralleled the exponential growth in online communication by young people. And in addition, he's such a kind, committed, and helpful person. He's a professor of school criminology and criminal justice at Florida Atlantic University and the co-director of the Cyberbullying Research Center and faculty associate at the Berkman Klein Center at Harvard University. Please welcome Samir Hinduja. Welcome, Samir.
Thank you.
So great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I just want you to take it away, because listening to you is always so awesome.
I'll do my best. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you, and also those of you joining us online. I'm just very grateful for your time. All of us, to some degree, are spending our professional lives trying to address school-based bullying, workplace bullying, cyberbullying, and that matters. That matters so much. It's a noble endeavor. And I hope you continue to be inspired, especially by being here and connecting with others. So I thought I'd take some time today just to share with you some of the research that I do with Dr. Justin Patchen over at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and then tackle a couple of issues that we've been thinking about more and more as we continue to try to make progress in this area, as we try to continue to move the needle. So with that, let's get started. So we think about all these platforms, and it seems that there's a new one coming down the pike every month, maybe definitely every year. And I have some familiarity with what is popular in many countries, but in terms of the US, these platforms have been the most popular over the last 12 to 18 months. So let's say during COVID, you think about Twitch and Twitter and Instagram and Snap. You think about House Party, a video chatting app. YouTube, WhatsApp, we're all familiar with. We've been using it all the time. Clubhouse, an audio-only app, became popular during the pandemic. And then Discord and PlayStation Network and Xbox Live and, of course, TikTok. It's very easy to demonize these social media platforms, these gaming platforms. And I do believe that they've fallen short when it comes to reaching these ideals that we have related to trust and safety and privacy and security. But I also feel that they're in uncharted waters, and they're continuing to try to iterate, and hopefully we can work hand in hand with them, whether it's through research or through various programmatic and policy-based discussions, to really assist them with the knowledge that they need as well. I also want to point out that the vast majority of users, whether it's youth or whether it's adults like you and me, they use these platforms responsibly, respectfully. Now, to be sure, there's always going to be some small population, some small minority which misuses and abuses the technology, but that shouldn't detract from the benefits that it is providing in terms of meeting social needs, relational needs, communication needs, educational needs for so many. So let's talk about the research. I have some new data to share with you that I have not shared ever before. This is what we would call freshly squeezed findings, just like we were talking about local orange juice in Florida, where I live. And so we conducted nationally representative studies this past, let's say May or June, focused on youth between the ages of 13 and 17 and adults between the ages of 18 and 40. And so as you look across these countries, Brazil, France, Indonesia, South Korea, UK, United States, it can kind of give you a feel for what's going on related to cyberbullying victimization over the last month. Now, of course, there's conversations to be had related to cultural distinctions and differences, but I want you to know that we provided a standard definition to everyone in these different countries, of course, with the insight and input from translators in each of the different countries. And we conveyed that cyberbullying is where one repeatedly harasses, intimidates, threatens, mistreats you on purpose using cell phones, other electronic devices, or social media. So again, a standard definition, and then it was up to them how they interpreted it and then responded within our survey instrument. So again, this is victimization over the last month. This is victimization over a lifetime. Again, youth and adults across these 6 countries. As I mentioned, there's so much to discuss, and we're going to be continuing to probe the depths of this data to get a feel for whether there are some subpopulations, maybe gender, maybe age, maybe race, that are disproportionately targeted. And so as you continue to follow our work, we'll be sure to share that with you. We'll also be looking at various important social and emotional correlates. This relates to offending. So again, you were the aggressor over the last month. And you can see the percentages in these 6 countries for various individuals, youth and adults. These numbers are small. Maybe it signals some underreporting because it's not a socially desirable answer to say, yes, I bully other people online. But that's just one of the possible concerns, although with these anonymous surveys, we tend to hope and believe and implement various sorts of practices to induce candor, to induce forthright responses. And then finally, with regard to data, this is what we're seeing over a lifetime offending. These youth and these adults, this percentage, admit to doing this. So again, I just wanted to set the table, provide a little bit of a backdrop as we start to think more about, solutions, areas of further inquiry, and what we can do. Let's talk about hope. I think about hope all the time, frankly, and it's this very vague and amorphous concept, definitely. And it's weird because we know that we all need hope in order to live life well, but it feels sometimes that it's maybe tied to external circumstance or emotion, and we tend to also understand that hope dictates, maybe informally, maybe formally, how we interact with others, our attitudes, our actions, and of course, our vision for the future. But still, it's so hard to pin down, to measure, and to mobilize. But with all that said, thankfully, over the last few decades, there's been this clear line of research which helps us to maybe say to ourselves, all right, let's just not look at this as a vague concept, but perhaps wrap parameters around it And then maybe, just maybe, we can make some progress related to the misbehaviors, the wrongful choices that youth and adults make. So thinking about hope, I first want to bring up the seminal work of Gabriel Marceau. And so this is, the first half of the 20th century. And he pointed to hope's transcendent quality and described it as, this felt need to be delivered from a state of captivity or a state of despair which stems from your current situation. And I think all of us can relate to that. And then we've had other researchers, whether it's in positive psychology or other fields, try to build on that foundation. For example, the work of C.R. Snyder said, okay, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't conceptualize it solely as an emotion, but maybe we should consider it as a thinking process. And this thinking process has a couple of key constructs or components. The first is pathways, and the second one is agency. So pathways are where an individual has a self-perception that they can identify some sort of route or pathway to a desired outcome or goal. Whereas agency is the self-perception that, you know what, I can do this. I can get myself to this intended goal. So just believing in oneself and understanding that, yes, I have the agency to do it. Now, in order to have hope and high levels of hope, you need both pathways and you need agency. And this is definitely learned developmentally as one goes through the childhood years, as one goes through the teenage years. How is it learned? Well, when it comes to pathways, a person like me would just be sort of like observing and recognizing and identifying, various interactions and situations and saying, oh my goodness, that specific cause led to this effect, or that decision led to this outcome. And then over time, you're like, oh, this makes sense. This is how you get towards your goals. And then agency also comes across time or over time where you think to yourself, oh, wow, I'm realizing, I'm coming to the conclusion that my decisions lead to these various sorts of outcomes, lead to these specific effects, or at least contribute to them on some level. So, as life goes on, a child continues to grow up and they're chasing after their goals, and ideally they're succeeding when it comes to pathways, when it comes to agency. And then if regularly they succeed and regularly these messages are internalized, well then of course they're going to have higher levels of hope. If it's not happening, then they're going to have a deflated sense or lower levels of hope. With all this said though, I don't want to convey that emotions don't matter. They still absolutely matter and they're still relevant. But what they are a reflection of the state of hope that a person has. And so thinking this through, a child is growing up and let's say they're repeatedly thwarted. Well, of course, then they're going to have negative emotions. But if they, over time, continually, for the most part, succeed when it comes to achieving goals, they're going to have higher levels of emotions, better emotions. And so with all that said, emotions hinge on this specific topic, on this specific aspect. And all of us, frankly, we interact or engage with all aspects of our life, whether it's romantic relationships, whether it's our family, whether it's school, peers, work, etc., with the emotional state that aligns with or parallels our levels of hope as accumulated over time. So I'm going to bring this all back to bullying and cyberbullying just now. Thinking about emotions, when you have high emotions or better emotions, you make better decisions. But when you have lower emotions, and that's tied, of course, into levels of hope, you make poorer choices. Because what happens, you experience the negative emotion, and it exerts on you this pressure for corrective action, which was brought up by Robert Agnew back in 1992. And so you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling very tense, and it's just this disequilibrium is really affecting me, and I've got to reconcile it. I've got to come to terms with it. I've got to fix this. And so you act out, oftentimes in deviant ways, in delinquent ways, in aggressive ways, and in antisocial ways, like bullying, like cyberbullying. So we studied this, and if you don't mind, take out your phone or another device that has a camera and just load up this QR code, which will load up a URL, a web address within the browser that you use. And then let's go through these polls, if you don't mind, because these are the questions that we posed to a nationally representative sample of youth across America. So just answer it as if you were you, thinking about your hope. It's all anonymous, so I would also encourage your candor. Okay, let's go to the next one. I can think of many ways to get the things in life that are most important to me. All right. And again, don't feel bad about your answer. Don't compare it to other people. This is just your state in life, and things vary as life varies. Next question. Next question. When I have a problem, I can come up with lots of ways to solve it. Would you say that's true for you? Maybe sometimes, maybe most of the time. Maybe not really, depending on the season that you're in. Perhaps depending on what is accumulated over time. Next question. I think the things I've done in the past will help me in the future. So once again, pointing to past experiences, cumulatively building upon each other and then compounding to lead to where you are right now in life. Even when others want to quit, I know that I can find ways to solve the problem. Okay, and I'm grateful for you to participate in my polls. We'll do a little bit more in just a second. So we studied this, and as you might expect, what we found is that those with high levels of hope, well, when they were, let me say it this way. Those with high levels of hope, they were significantly less likely to cyberbully others. 36% less likely. This is over lifetime and also recently, so over the last month. What I'm trying to point out here is that hope matters. And you might ask me, okay, so it matters. What do we do about that? How do we build it? And maybe that's a question that we'll tackle during Q&A or down the road when I chat with you over coffee. But I think that it starts with relationships. When you have people in your corner who believe in you and they encourage you that, okay, maybe this is the route you need to take towards your goal. And yes, I want you to remind you that you do have agency, you do have autonomy to kind of shape how things turn out for you to get there. I want you to believe in yourself. Well, that makes a huge difference. And we talk about relationships, but do we and do our constituents in schools, in workplaces, in the community actually carve out time to build those relationships? That's really the question. Let's talk about resilience. So I've shared with you before that resilience matters so much. It's all about bouncing back, overcoming adversity, and I want us to continue to focus in on that. But we wanted to move forward from general perceptions of resilience, so we've been looking at digital resilience. What does that mean? Well, you can see our definition up there. Positive attitudes and actions in the face of interpersonal adversity online. So I think there might be a parallel to road rage. And so you're in a car, let's say you're on the highway and people are driving crazily and it's really annoying you. So a car is a unique environment, and it's arguable that social media and gaming platforms are also a unique environment where maybe you would act differently than you would normally generally act. So again, you're in a car and someone really cheeses you off, and then all of a sudden, maybe you typically have these sort of rational responses, but instead, that gets hijacked by this very irrational emotional response. And you say something abusive towards them, or you motion with a specific hand gesture in their direction. So that happens, but that's not your normal behavior. And so again, the argument is it possible that something about the online realm contributes to this? And so accordingly, of course, how can we build resilience? Let's do a few more questions with flash polling. Again, if you don't mind scanning the QR code. And it's also, of course, that URL. Sorry, I'll move it back. There you go. That gives you a second to load it up. And for those of you who've already seen the poll, thank you for already responding. Let's move on. And as we're seeing, it's basically asking you, when someone says something hurtful to me online, I can easily laugh it off. Think about the apps and the platforms you use. I won't be specific, but what's the story here? And again, please don't feel condemned or indicted. We're all different with regard to our levels of sensitivity and our levels of resilience, which probably continue to get better over time. Be gracious with yourself. Next question. I'm easily frustrated when communicating with people online. What would you say if you're honest with me, with us? I hear a bit of a chuckle. Maybe it's reminding you of certain instances or moments. Next question. I find myself responding quickly to emails, texts, or online posts that make me upset. Is that true? I bet that's also bringing up some memories for all of us, including me. And then finally, when I have a bad experience online, it sticks with me for a long time. I can relate to this. Just yesterday, I was dealing with an email. Okay, so as we've studied this, let me share with you our findings. We identified that youth, specifically, again, a national sample of youth across America, of those who were cyberbullied, those with high levels of resilience were significantly less likely to be bothered, hurt, or harmed. Whereas those with low levels of resilience, when they were cyberbullied, they were significantly more likely to be harmed or hurt or bothered by the action. So again, resilience matters without a doubt. I can follow up with you on any of this, and I'm happy to send you my slides as well. So, hello, David. Let's think about Michelangelo, and let's think about the fact that, okay, he, between 1501 and 1504, tackled this gigantic block of marble, and he created it into this beautiful human being. Now, I think about that when I think about resilience, because what were the two most powerful tools in order to make this happen? The chisel and the hammer. And he just kept working away at that block of marble over and over again, smashing, cutting, slamming, blasting. But look where it turned out. And so we need to remind our youth that this is just life. This is how it goes. You know, you deal with adversity, struggle, strife, but it's that hammer, it's that chisel. And if you'll just wait and be patient, eventually it'll be a beautiful outcome as well. And of course, we're in the corner. We're making sure that they don't fall apart, but we have to continue to encourage resilience. I also think it's incumbent on social media companies to maybe consider additional messaging strategies and campaigns focused in on empowering youth to be digital resilient. And this could be in the form of an interstitial, some sort of like an ad you would see as you're scrolling. Could be messages, could be pop-ups, could be prompts. It could look a number of ways. Whether the message says, don't feed the troll, or kill them with kindness, or don't allow them to live rent-free in your head, or if it's toxic, stay away from it, something like that. Well, these messages, I think, can be so powerful to promote digital resilience. And then as I get close to wrapping up here, I want to talk about counter-speech. Counter-speech is just presenting an alternative narrative. Instead of maybe responding to hate or harm with more harm or hate, you respond in a more gentle manner, perhaps softening the discourse, being more civil. And so let's think this through very briefly as I wrap up. First, the Pareto principle. That means that, by the way, it's also called the law of the vital few. That means that 80% of the consequences stem from 20% of the causes. By way of example, during Brexit, 51% of the anti-Muslim hate came from about 6% of individuals. So can we identify this population that just tends to be cruel and hurtful towards others and then target them? We think about inaction. Inaction is the worst possible thing related to harm because then we're passively condoning it. We're saying this is acceptable behavior. We must absolutely combat inaction, encourage social media sites to delete both the content as well as maybe ban the aggressor, and we've got to continue to promote education. Susan Benesch has done great work related to counter-speech, and so warning of consequences can have a short-term effect, and we're studying whether it has a long-term effect, saying that, look, this is going to affect your reputation. You might be banned from this platform, and of course it affects the target in these specific ways. Shaming and labeling, nobody wants to be labeled as a misogynist or a racist or a sexist. Perhaps we can use that to our advantage. But then I think empathy is so very important, which was brought up by the Oswald sisters yesterday. And then affiliation, affiliating yourself with the target to make sure that they know that they're not alone. And even possibly affiliating yourself with the aggressor to find a common ground before you say, maybe you should temper your statements, maybe you should backpedal a little bit and watch what you say. And then humor and images are valuable simply because images especially, they're more persuasive than just words and they transcend cultural and linguistic boundaries. We should study how this content, harmful content, propagates because that'll help identify, the volume with which it spreads and how quickly we might be able to put a stop to it. And we should solve for echo chambers. You understand this, and I won't go into it, but it's all about apps providing you what you want to see, but then you're never really presented with counter arguments which would broaden your horizons and worldview. And so, of course, if you're in an echo chamber that's devoted to extremism or all sorts of hateful sentiments or violent sentiments, that's where you're going to continue to see. And my last point, we must control bots. You understand these automatic programs that provide or that continue with these repetitive tasks, they are causing harm and there's more work to be done. I appreciate your patience as I cover these points, and you know that I'm here for you, as is everybody else. I look forward to continued collaboration, and I thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much, Samir Hinduja. Thank you, Samir. It's wonderful to listen to you. And you give me hope. Yes, let's just make me thank you, Samir, by saying that. You give me a lot of hope. I think you are so competent, and I think also that you are building relationships all the time with me and other people. And as you saw, Samir has also asked you questions. And take the chance also to ask him questions in person or in the networking part on the site. Thank you very much. We will have a short break, and there will be just a short break, and there will be parallel sessions. So find your parallel session and the thing you want to go to, and we start in a few minutes. Thank you very much.